In this video, we will explain how the subtype attribute can be used to force design decisions. In our current design, we have a distribution cable which is trenching on both street sides. The distribution cable uses a single crossing to reach the opposite side of the street. Imagine that for a certain design, the requirements are to trench on one side of the street only. The remaining drop points on the opposite side should be connected with branching cables. So, in this hypothetical scenario, crossings are preferred over multiple street side trenches. In order to force such a design, let's go back to the input view. Go to the Possible Trenches layer. First of all, we select the trenches on the bottom side of the street. Open up the attribute table. We are going to make changes to the layer, so enable editing. Using the field calculator, we will update the value of the subtype attribute. Let's give the trenches on the bottom side a new subtype with the name Cheapside. Remember that a textual value should always be surrounded by single quotes. Press OK to make the changes. Bring the selection to the top of the table. We can now verify that they indeed have our newly defined subtype. Similarly, we can select the edges at the top side of the street. Let's go back to the field calculator. Again, we want to update the subtype field. This time, we give these trenches the expensive side subtype. Once more, we can see that they have been updated. So let's save our changes. Remember to update the mapping file so the Fiber Planet designer is also notified of these changes. We do this by clicking the Process Area button. When this step is finished, we want to open up the Rules and Material. Go to the Trenching Parameters section. In the table with the connections types, import the newly defined subtypes. We now have additional entries for the cheap and expensive trenching types. Let's put the cost for the cheaper trench to 20 euros, which is about half the cost of the standard trenching. And let's set the expensive trenches to 200 euros. Head back to the design view. If we rerun the distribution calculation with these settings, the expected result would be a distribution cable on the bottom side of the street, with 3 crossing cables to reach the drop points on the opposite, expensive side. And indeed, we can now see the distribution cables are following the preferred route. These newly defined trenching subtypes will also be reported in the bill of material. Go to the Overview tab. All common trenching costs are placed in the public trenching category. Notice the separate entry for the trenching of our custom cheap side subtype. The street side trenching for this type has a total cost of 20 euro, like we entered in the rules. The total amount of trenching of this type is reported in the volume column, expressed in meters. This concludes the example of how the subtype can be used in a practical design example.